Hey everyone, welcome to Tales from the Pros, and this is Michael Giorgio, your host and co-founder of Imagine Ovation. My special guest with me here today is an inspirational speaker, coach, and one of the most prolific advocates of heart-based leadership in North America. Inc. magazine named him one of the top 100 leadership speakers, alongside noteworthy giants such as Richard Branson, John Maxwell, and Robin Sharma, which I'm sure you all know. Bobby is a 5X TEDx speaker and one of the top social media influencers in the world with over 500,000 followers. He has been named the second best business coach to follow on Twitter and the fourth best leadership influencer according to Cred. Bobby is an author of 3 books, including international #1 bestseller. This is Tales from the Pros, where business leaders and influencers share their stories of inspiration, struggles, and successes. And I'm your host, Michael Giorgio. Please welcome Bobby Umar. Bobby, I really appreciate you being with me here today, man. Thank you so much.
Very excited to be here, Michael. Thank you very much, too.
Absolutely. I know you're very busy, and like I mentioned you before, I see you everywhere, all over LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn a lot, and I love your messages and just how authentic and real you are, and everything's very positive. And I think the world just needs more of that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of clutter on the internet, as you know. So.
No, I appreciate that, and I'm really glad that my message is resonating with people such as yourself. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Bobby, just kind of kick things off here. Can you give us a little background on just your story and what essentially led you to helping lost leaders and how to find their clarity and purpose and joy and fulfillment?
Sure. So I think the best way to start was I was a loss leader myself. I had tried different careers. So first I started engineering. I dabbled in performing arts. I then did, after my MBA, I did brand marketing. And I just couldn't find the right thing that fit me. I also did a bit of teaching as well. And then I realized, you know what, I need to dive in my personal brand, really figure this stuff out. And so once I did, the thing that came up to my mind was like, I probably should do motivational speaking, professional speaking. And so I launched that 13 years ago, and I haven't looked back because it aligned with all the things that I care about in terms of nurturing people, influence, persuasion, diversity, and all the things that I really care about that are part of my brand as a connector and as an influencer. So I started that, and then as I've gone through it, I've kind of evolved to add different things in terms of writing a book and doing some coaching. But speaking is the main thing I do. It's the main thing I love, and that's why I'm here today.
Great. So, did you always see yourself as a entrepreneur and just kind of building your own personal brand, or were you always thinking of yourself as a corporate man, or how did that kind of come about?
I think I was always a people pleaser, and I think that's where it helped me, but it also got me
Yeah.
stuck. So I think there was entrepreneur stuff all through my life as a kid. Selling raspberries and doing junior achievement and doing stuff in high school, but I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur. It was only until I was in corporate after my MBA, and I was trying to impress people in the corporate world that I realized, what, I'm spending my time being a people pleaser when really I should be pleasing myself and figuring out what works best for me. And so I look back when I did my personal brand journey and realized, hey, there's a lot of entrepreneurship stuff throughout my life. I
Mm.
mean, technically, the musical theater company I ran was an entrepreneur adventure that I put together. And so I was like, maybe I should be doing more of that. So I didn't really fit the mindset of an entrepreneur until much later when I started really thinking about what I wanted to do.
And just kind of like in your experience, Bobby, like, do you feel many business leaders, or I would say leaders in general, don't live their purpose, but essentially they just work for the wrong reasons? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. There's a reason why 76% of people are unfulfilled or dispassionate about their jobs, right? That's a stat from, I believe, Deloitte. There's another stat that says that 80% of first year university or college students who are studying something end up doing something completely different than what they started with. And that's because most of us follow a path of success defined by other people. We don't take the time to understand what we really want, what aligns with us. We define success based on our parents or corporations or society. And so we end up feeling lost or stuck. And once we get into the corporate world, we start working for a company or a path or industry. And then 5, 10 years later, we create a narrative that makes us stuck. And we just feel resigned to being there. Well, they were like, well, I'm making good money, even though it doesn't really fit with what I care about. Or, you know, thank goodness for my wife and kids at home, even though I don't like my job, but I got to pay the bills. And so we create this narrative or mindset that kind of holds us back. And so that's why I think a lot of people are feeling this way all the time, because they follow these different paths that are not really aligned with who they are.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, I just noticed so many people, they're just working to make money, or they just feel the pressure to have this 9 to 5 gig, 9 to 5 job, you know?
Yeah.
At least that's the kind of the for me being in the US for 20 almost 25 years, there's just so much stress and pressure in the country, and probably even around the world, in terms of just having that 7 to 8 hour job, and just making money and providing for your family and all that. But I think there's a lot more to life than that. You know, you have to do something that you really, really love and you enjoy, because if you enjoy it and you have purpose in it, you're going to be so much more productive, and you're going to be, and you're just going to do that much better. And I think you can, I think everyone can have some sort of better positive influence, I believe,
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of people are afraid of change. And so, even the 9 to 5, corporate structure is based on something that is, not really needed anymore. It's based on the Industrial Revolution. And so now, like, things have changed. We have a knowledge economy, we have a gig economy. There's opportunity everywhere, but people have to get past their mindset to do that. And yes, parents and corporations, put a lot of mindset on it. Like, oh, get a stable job, and get
yeah.
the wife and kids, and the 2.1 children and the white picket fence house. Like, they say that, but it's not really what is best for us. And another big thing that happens a lot is people typically will do this thing where they'll say, here's what I wanna do. I want to be an accountant. Here, let me learn how to become an accountant. Then I get a job as an accountant, and I live my life based as what my accounting salary will give me. And so what they do is they do, then they learn, and then they live. But what you want to do is you should do actually live first. Figure out the type of life you want to live, then figure out what it takes to do that, and then learn how to do it. And that's really the what you should be doing versus just doing the opposite.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Yeah, and I think I mean that's one of that's one of the main reasons I wanted to interview Bobby, because that resonated with me a lot, and I think I think it's starting to resonate with a lot of people. A lot of some other business leaders that I've interviewed have said very similar things, and I think it's so important for us, even if we're not entrepreneurs. It doesn't always have to be a business owner or entrepreneur. I think it could be someone who's working in a company who might have an entrepreneurial mindset, and they need to figure out really what makes them happy. And like I said before, I think that's going to make a huge difference in just their overall daily lives. And when they wake up in the morning, they're going to feel so joyful, and they're going to have gratitude. You know what I mean? So I think all
Absolutely.
those elements are
and
so
and there
important.
are yeah, and there are ways for people to create opportunities and freedom versus just not being an entrepreneur. Like, if you're not entrepreneurial, there are ways to do it. Like, some people I work with, they'll invest in real estate, and next thing you know, or they invest in a business which they then buy, but then have someone else run it for them, because they're not entrepreneurial, but they're good at taking the asset and leveraging it to create more freedom for themselves. So you could buy real estate and then eventually have a business manager run that real estate, and now you don't need a job anymore because you're making all this rental income. So there are ways to create revenue streams and systems, even if you're not entrepreneurial, to provide more freedom and flexibility for what it is you really want to do with your life.
Yeah. And also, in your experience, Bobby, what are we as business leaders missing when we go about our daily lives? Like, is it, do you feel it's more of a lack of gratitude, patience, faith, belief? Like, what do you feel in your experience something that a lot of us are lacking?
Good question. I'd say it's hard to say. I mean, I don't want to, claim what I think everyone's missing for one thing, but
Yeah.
I think that there's definitely something around what I would call alignment and fulfillment, right? So aligning and connect with yourself, aligning with what your values are, aligning with what you're passionate about, aligning with what you really want to do, and where you're going to find the most joy and fulfillment. And if people are usually missing that. Even the high level CEOs or successful tech entrepreneurs who are running multi-million dollar companies, they're feeling unfulfilled. They're feeling like, well, I've achieved this and I've created that impact, but I don't feel like I have that That's not the legacy that I wanted. I mean, yeah, I made company X $500 million, but what have I done for myself? Am I going to be remembered for that? And that's why I go back to the whole, story, purpose, legacy. Like ultimately, we all want to leave a legacy. In fact, I would argue that there's three things that people want. They want to have more focus and clarity. They want to have more alignment and fulfillment, and they also want to have more impact and legacy. And so, that those are having more focus, having more alignment, having more impact. Those are things that individuals want, and they just don't know how to start getting it.
And Bobby, like, what do you have any tips in regards to how leaders should create a legacy the right way? Like, what have you experienced with in mentoring and coaching other businesses and people? What has worked?
Well, there's lots of things you can do, but one of the things I like to ask people is, what do you want your legacy to be? And I start to reverse engineer their life. And I say, think of yourself as an 80-year-old sitting on a porch, reviewing your life, and people see you on that porch. What are they going to think about you? What are they going to say about you? What do you want them to say about you?
Hmm.
Oh, there's the guy who was a really tough workaholic who, made that company millions of dollars, or he's someone that had heart, made an impact on his community, and was a game changer because of X, Y, and Z. So visioning and reverse engineering what kind of life you want to live is actually quite powerful. In fact, there's um, a great article on the five regrets of the dying. If you look at what they say, they talk about the importance of the connections and relationships in your life, and they talk about the importance of experiencing the grand diversity of this great earth. And so if you look at that, that's one thing that's a very stark thing that helps. The second thing that I think that's a one kind of grand thing. The second thing is trying to get them to do things now. So you look at the narratives that they create, and so I usually will talk to clients about where do you want to see yourself in 1 year, 5 year, 2, 5, 10 years, and what does it look like for you in terms of how it makes you feel? Because that's going to be part of your story. Do you want your story to be that I slaved away at this company for 10 years, or that I actually was able to contribute to society in a way that's beyond the cubicle and beyond the office space? So giving them that kind of short, long term kind of goals to go after. And the third thing really is to encourage them that what's the best way to get there. Most people need a coach to get there. You need a coach to be more fit. You need a coach to pass an exam. You need a coach to do better with your life. So I'm a big believer in using coaches to find more focus, accountability, and really to 10x the results that you really want in your life.
Hmm. What do you believe is really the most important characteristic or trait to have in order for us to excel in our lives? Do you think there's a one or two things, or you think it's just a combination of different characteristics
Mm,
for excelling and moving forward, striving to achieve our goals?
that's a good question. It's hard to say there's one thing. I mean,
Yeah.
you could argue gratitude, or you could lump it into leadership, right? I mean,
Mhm.
leadership for me is the idea of influencing yourself to evolve, change, grow, and learn and adapt to better yourself, so that you can better the people around you and better your company and better your world. So you could say leadership is that, but there's smaller things like love and kindness and gratitude. I'm a big believer in empathy, and empathy is something I think that really connects me to my life, my family, my friends, my work, and allows me to understand how people are feeling so that I can actually help them and create more impact. So it's hard for me to come up with one thing.
Yeah.
I think if we define leadership the way I just did, which is you, creating influence by improving yourself and evolving, learning, growing to better yourself and the people around you, and that includes everything from being a better friend to being in better health to being a better worker. If you're willing to adopt the idea of that leadership piece, then I think that's what's going to really, make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, have you noticed empathy is has been talked about a lot lately these
Yeah,
last few years, especially from, I'm sure you know, Gary Vaynerchuk, right? And
sure.
all these top guys. Have you ever been able to meet Gary
Well,
Vaynerchuk?
very close. I did share the stage with him one time as a speaker, but I never actually got a chance to meet him
That's awesome.
directly.
That's so
I
cool.
tried though. I tried really hard. He was he had a lot of handlers.
Oh, I can imagine. Where did you ever meet any of these other top guys that were also kind of mentors to you?
it's hard to meet some of them. I met Robin Sharma one time, and that was fun, and he was really great. But
Oh wow,
yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, one day I'll meet some of these guys, but Tony Robbins maybe. But yeah,
sure,
they have a lot of handlers. It's not easy to meet them. That's for sure.
yeah,
But yeah, like I was talking about, Gary Vee talks a lot about empathy as well. And the thing is I've noticed a lot in my life. I love how you mentioned empathy because I feel like when you can learn about someone's life and understand their story, and even when you're trying to work with them and you're trying to build that relationship with them, even as a potential client or what have you, when you have empathy for them and you understand what they're going through, it just makes it makes things that much easier. The trust increases,
yeah.
the you know what I mean, the relationship increases. There's so much that, and I feel like if we all had more empathy, and not just business but in our families like you mentioned, and friendships, and even with strangers, just having empathy and understanding them and understanding what they're going through, and kind of not pitying them, but just understanding that, hey, everyone has a struggle. Like I'm here to help you. You know what I mean? Without expecting anything in return, type deal.
Yeah, I think empathy is a way to create more heart leadership, right? So if we empathize with the people that we work with, we can create a leadership that invests in the people and becomes more connective. The same thing applies to being a better father, a better son, a better friend. So I think empathy is really a great way to create that connection, and to me, it's probably the biggest leadership skill that we can all work on because it's going to make us better. It's going to make our teams better. So I love empathy. It's great.
It is, and I believe in, obviously, the power of positivity is so important, especially when we're going through really tough times and struggles. Positivity, when you're just positive, it it for some reason in my life at least, Bobby, like I feel that it's when I'm kind of down on my knees and I'm so, it's just so much anxiety, so stressed out with whatever's happening in business or just in life in general. When you're positive, it just I feel like life changes. When you have faith and when you're positive, things just change for the better. Because your mind, I feel, defaults to it just defaults to negativity, and you have to kind of shift that mindset.
Yeah, I think our mindset is something that kind of holds us back, and whether we have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, finding a way to find the gratitude, find the positive, to fail forward, to learn and grow, and understand that tomorrow's another day, and where we learn from our mistakes. That mindset can take you down one path or a more positive path. So it's important for us to work on that mindset as best we can.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, just jumping a little bit here, Bobby. As I mentioned before, earlier in the podcast, that you have a lot of followers, you have a huge reach. I mean, your videos get a lot of views, even though views is not the most important thing. But just kind of putting some metrics to it, you get reach a lot of people, have a lot of influence, which is great. And you've built yourself a strong personal brand. And personal branding, I feel right now is hugely in trend because I think there's a lack of there's just way too much clutter right now online, and there's a lack of trust, as I mentioned, and everyone's just trying to sell. Do you notice that, especially just on Facebook, LinkedIn? Everyone's just trying to sell
Yeah.
something, but when you're providing these authentic, real, true messages, and that resonate with so many people, that's amazing, and I think the world needs more of that. So with you building a strong personal brand for yourself, did you have any tips, Bobby, or strategies or tactics that you utilized in order to create that personal brand? Any type of tips for others?
Oh man, so many.
Yeah. Well, some
so,
of the best ones. I know it's a very high level question, but what has kind of worked for you?
well,
Is it more social? Is it more is it content? Is
no,
it
the first thing to think about is number
message?
one, you need to invest the time and energy resources to dive in your personal brand and understand what it is. People don't do the work. It takes work. You got to do the work.
Oh yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is once you have that personal brand kind of laid out, now you have to think about your target audience and how you want to serve them and what's your why and what's their pain point, how you can fill their buckets and make them feel good and empowered. So once you and then you figure that out, and then you start creating content to serve that need. So for me, a big part of creating a thought leadership personal brand is broken down into three things. One is building relationships. Number two is creating the content and generating ideas. And number three is about working on your speaking and your writing skills. So if you want to build a strong personal brand, you need to do all three of those things. You need to network better, you need to create content, you need to work on your speaking and writing skills. And if you do that, all of the Gary Vaynerchuk's and the Oprah Winfrey's and the Brené Browns and Tony Robbins, that's what they're doing. They're
Yep.
always working on their stuff too. And they put it to a really, really strong level. So for me, that's what I would make sure you would work on. And the other tip I'll say is just start. Like, create some content, do a blog post, do a video, just share it, just say, hey, here I am. I realize my personal brand's this. I want to dive in and help people in this way. What do you think? And just just engage people. The most important piece is progress, not perfection. And if you are willing to engage, because it's amazing how few people engage. Like LinkedIn's a good example, right?
Hmm.
I mean, only 1% of LinkedIn users are there engaging on an active level. And of that 1%, only 1% are actually creating content daily like I am. Right. So if you want to make a difference, get out there and start creating content. You'll actually find it to be quite a game changer.
Yeah, it's not like Facebook, right? Facebook's very different, isn't it? Facebook has changed a lot.
Well, Facebook changed in the sense that there's more of a pay to play model for entrepreneurs and businesses. But even like for my personal level, I mean, I still do post on Facebook, but for Facebook, I'm talking more about personal stuff, family stuff, social issues, things like that. But it's frustrating there because you feel like no one sometimes people don't see your posts or no one likes it. It's like what the heck? Where's everybody? It's so weird. Whereas on LinkedIn, like because they're pushing the algorithm, almost everyone's seeing your stuff, and you feel pretty. It feels like you're getting great engagement. Like I'm getting far greater engagement on LinkedIn right now than I have anywhere else, even though my influence might be larger on Twitter or more personal on Facebook.
What are your thoughts on Twitter lately?
Well, I'm on Twitter. I love Twitter,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of haters. What I would say is that, and the biggest challenge Twitter has is all the hate on there, all the vitriol. But part of the thing with Twitter is that they've been really great for a while, and then recently in the last couple of years they've really been. The truth is they've actually survived because of Donald Trump because
Hmm.
he's on there and he's posting a lot of really negative stuff and there's a lot of people who love his stuff, but it's keeping them alive because it's creating a lot of engagement and stuff like that. But because about a year and a half ago, Twitter lost their first ever user base. Like they've been growing their user base, but they had one quarter where they lost user base.
Yep, I
So
heard
that's a
about
big
that too.
challenge. And one of the reasons why I think they don't want to get rid of Trump is because he's keeping them afloat with all the activity and stuff. But Twitter still has two things that's going for them that's really, really good. Number one, responsiveness. So if there's an election, if there's an earthquake, if there's a soccer goal scored anywhere in the world, right away in Twitter, people are tweeting about it. They're sharing pictures. They're sharing video right away in the moment. That's huge.
It's more real time.
There's
Yep.
nothing like that anywhere else. Number two is accessibility, which means that I can tweet Lady Gaga, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, and Elton John and say, "Hey, you're amazing," or "You suck," or whatever I want. But the point is, you feel like you have access to them because they're so accessible. Whereas you can't really do that on LinkedIn or Facebook because they're not your friends or they're not your professional connections. So the accessibility piece and the responsiveness piece of Twitter is huge. And so people still go to Twitter all the time to get the latest news and thought leadership in every field there is, whether it's sports, whether it's politics, whether it's business. There's a lot going on there. So that's why for now, I think Twitter is still a player in the game. And I think it's something that people need to use.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and obviously YouTube is very powerful, but YouTube is it's not as easy as it used to be to get views on your videos. There's just so many. I mean, how many videos are uploaded per day? It's insane.
Yeah, and the problem with YouTube is that you have to push it out, right? So you have to push it out and then get more views on it, which is challenging if you don't have the subscribers. But again, YouTube is also evolving. They're trying to throw in stories now, just like there's Instagram stories and Snapchat stories and Facebook stories, because and now LinkedIn and YouTube are now investigating having stories in their platforms, which makes sense. Twitter already has it because Twitter basically is a tweet is a story, so they already have them.
Yeah, I personally love LinkedIn, so I try to stick with LinkedIn and YouTube. Facebook hasn't worked too well, unless, like you said, it was a little more personal stuff. But business isn't as I don't know. I just felt for business, it's not
Well, the
as
best
the
business thing
engagement
of
isn't as high.
well, the best business thing for Facebook is the groups. right? I mean, LinkedIn groups are not that great, and Facebook groups are probably the best for business. So my best business groups are on Facebook. But in terms of having a business brand, it's really pay to play. Like you have to like put ads
Yep.
in to get your content out there.
Yep, that's true. They're really pushing their paid platform.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Bobby, like I'm assuming in the past or in your life, you've had mentors, or you've had some great advice from other people. What's some of the best advice that you received in regards to essentially finding your fulfillment for yourself that allowed you to truly excel? Did you get any good advice from anyone, or
Well, I think one of
personally,
the
or
yeah. So I think I have a mentor, and one of the things he told me was about learning to value myself more. I was the type of guy that I'm really big on people pleasing, right, and the power of connection. So often I would do things for people and go out of my way without even getting paid for it. And he's like, Bobby, you need to like value yourself and treat yourself as a business, particularly in all these different areas. And he did a little experiment where he checked how often I would give back and not directly or indirectly create revenue. And it turned out it was 58% of my time was non-revenue creation activities. Like that's way too high. And so I tried to shift that down to like 10 to 20%, and not be so freely giving all my time. And I still give my time, but it's just I have to have the right balance, right? By all means, give back, but 10 to 20% is what he told me to do, and so that's kind of what I strive to do now.
so you said 10? You said 10 to 20%. So
Yeah.
don't expect anything back.
What? Sorry, say it again.
You said it kind of broke up there. You mentioned don't expect anything back.
No, 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 no. I said that 10 to 20% of your time is for giving back, right? Don't
For giving
spend the
back.
majority of your time giving back because then you're not going to generate business and be able to do things you want to do. You have to take care of business first. And so his point was to try to give back lesser than I was, but still give back.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I like what you mentioned. You touched that point on valuing ourselves,
Yeah,
valuing yourself. I think that is a huge problem. I mean, I've been in business a while, and I feel like a lot of people aren't, and not even just business. I think in just general, I think a lot of us don't really value ourselves, like you mentioned. I think that's a big problem. We don't really see our true worth, and then until we see our worth, it's hard for us to excel, right? Because if we don't see our worth and our value, how are other people going to see it
exactly.
and
And
believe in
and
it?
that's another reason why it's so important to dive into your brand to figure that stuff out because the moment you know your value, everyone will too because you'll talk about it and you'll share it and you'll see it, and that's why it's good to have a really focused, clear brand, and people will definitely see the value you bring. And it's also another reason why it's good to build a thought leadership brand because once you start building the expertise and sharing content and networking with the right people and working your speaking and writing skills, you will start to stand out as a leader in your space, and people will value more.
Yeah, that's so true. Yep. Perfect. Bobby, I really appreciate it. That's great insight, and I love the tips and the strategies that you gave as well. So to kind of just close things out here, I always ask uh, the three hows for every single
Okay.
person I interview on the show, called the three hows. So, how do you define failure? How do you define entrepreneurship? And how do you define success?
Wow. Okay. Start with the first one. How do you define failure?
Yep.
Failure is when you don't learn. So what that means is, if you do something and let's say you make a mistake or it doesn't go well or something goes wrong or even it's a disaster and you learn nothing from it, that's a failure. If you actually learn from it, it's a chance for it's opportunity to grow. It's redirection. It's a feeling forward type thing. But failure to me is when you actually don't learn from something that's happening. That's the first one. Second one, how to define entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship really is the drive within to empower yourself to own your life, to own your story, to own your purpose and legacy, and create that impact that you want. Every single person has this ability. Every single person has is worth it. And entrepreneurship is something that it's got to be this fire within to do that and not be feel stuck or lost or unfulfilled in your career path. So being entrepreneurship is about trying to create that impact and story and legacy. And then the third one, what was the third one again?
Success.
Oh, how you define success? Oh, okay, yeah. So for me, I define success by everything I can do to enhance the four areas of fulfillment in my life. So, a lot of people talk about money, but like money is just one tool to create that success. It's not the main thing. So for me, there's four areas of your life where you want to have fulfillment. One is the work that you're doing. Number two, it's the people in your life. So whether they're kids, parents, friends, coworkers. Number three, it's your passion and pursuits. So extracurricular activities, maybe like rock climbing, maybe like hot yoga. And the fourth one is, your, I guess, your mental state, your spirituality, your religious, that type of area. So people find fulfillment in all four of those areas, but they typically will find fulfillment in two, but not the other two. They'll say, "Oh, I love my job, but I can't stand life at home," or "Love my wife and kids, but I can't stand my job," or worse, they'll say, "Can't stand my job, can't stand my life at home. Thank goodness for rock climbing." But you should, to me, if you want to be successful, you should work on creating more joy, fulfillment, and happiness in all four of those areas of your life. And if you do that, you will feel successful and you will be successful.
Fantastic. That's perfect, man. I love it. I absolutely love it. So, Bobby, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on my website at www.rayallen.com. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, and all the different places with my handle Rayhan Bobby. And then, of course, I'm on LinkedIn too.
Perfect. Bobby, thank you so much, man, for being on this, on this podcast and sharing your story with us. I'm very, very thankful. So thank you for the opportunity. Really
My,
appreciate it.
my pleasure, Mike. It was a lot of fun. Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. And this is your host, Michael Giorgio, on Tales from the Pros. And until next time. Please subscribe to our YouTube page and also follow our social media. There are links somewhere around here. But we really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for all the support. And I'm going to be giving you awesome content continuously. And we look forward to seeing you soon.